everybody, welcome to another episode of From What I Gather, where today I'm putting together these delicious smoked jalapeno and cheddar snack sticks that everyone's gonna love. So let's get started. For the sake of getting everything ground and mixed together quickly while it's still very cold, I want to have my spice blend ready to go before I begin grinding the meat. And for this sausage, I'm going to start with 150 grams or about a cup and a quarter of dried milk, and that may vary depending on how fine the dry milk you have is. I've also got 17 grams of pink cure number 1. I've got 2 tablespoons or about 15 grams of garlic powder, and 6 tablespoons or 150 grams of plain salt. I also wanted some jalapeno powder here, but I couldn't get it in time, so I got this jalapeno pepper sauce, which has a ton of jalapeno flavor and not a lot of other flavors going on in there, so it's going to work out really well for this. So I'm probably going to use about a quarter cup of this to get the flavor I want. I've also got my dehydrated jalapenos and the high temp cheese out in the refrigerator. So I just want to mix all my dry ingredients in here and give this a real good shake to get everything blended together very well, and then I'll get to grinding the meat. Now you can get creative and have a whole lot of fun making your own spice blends for your sausages, and you can of course use those commercial made mixes, and those work very well. I use them all the time. In this particular sausage, I really want jalapeno flavor to be the star, so I'm just going to add that little bit of garlic to make it pop, and the rest is going to be jalapeno and cheese. I'm using 15 pounds of meat today, and I like to go 2 parts lean to 1 part fatty. So here I've got 10 pounds of lean beef. You could use venison or elk or bear or goose or whatever lean red meat you want. And I've got 5 pounds of pork belly. And sometimes I can just get fatty pork trimmings from my butcher, but if I can't, I can always get the pork belly. I'm going to run these one pass through the 1/8 inch plate on my grinder. If you want the texture to be kind of more hot doggy inside, go ahead and run it through twice, and that's going to give you a little more emulsified type texture, but I want some meaty little bits in there, so one pass is what I like to do. And this is all partially frozen and very cold, so I'm going to glove up with some cotton liners and some rubber gloves and go ahead and run this through the grinder. Now I want to work fairly quickly and get this all mixed up with my spices while it's still very cold. So I'll sprinkle around half of this on here, give it a mix. And this is real cold, so this is where these cotton liners really come in handy. Now I'll just kind of fold that over, then put in the rest of my seasoning. That with a bunch of that hot sauce. Normally I'll dissolve that pink salt in some water before I mix it in here, and just to kind of help it incorporate a little easier, but I just got a little too excited and forgot to do that, so it's just mixed in with the rest of the dry seasoning. Here comes that water. It's a cup and a half. Now I just want to mix the heck out of that and get all of that evenly distributed. Make sure everything gets cured and seasoned. Well, I've got it partially mixed, and now I'm going to come in with my dried jalapenos. And these babies are spicy, but I'm not going to be shy with them because I want this to be a spicy batch. But use your best judgment when applying dried jalapenos. I got at least a cup of those mixed in, and I'll see how that looks when I get it really distributed. I want a little jalapeno in every bite, you know. I'll grab a little bit. No jalapeno in that little bit, so I'm gonna add a little more. So we're gonna be at about a cup and a half of those dried jalapenos. Seems to be about right for me. Oh, they smell so good. Oh, baby! That's probably enough. At this point, everything's thoroughly mixed together, so I want to take a little piece of that and just make a little patty, and I'm going to fry that up and check it for seasoning. The reason I'm doing this before I add the cheese is that if I need to add any more salt or garlic or whatever and really have to stir it up, I don't want the cheese in there because I don't want to break it up. Let's give that a try. Oh, it's really good. Saltiness is right there. Good jalapeno flavor. But I'm going to go ahead and put in the whole bottle of that. So I want even a little more jalapeno flavor. So I'll put in the rest of the hot sauce, mix this together, and then we're going to toss in the cheese. Let's talk about cheese. I'm using high temperature cheddar cheese in this recipe today. And this cheese has a melting point of around 400 degrees, which is much higher than regular cheese. And the reason I want to use this cheese is so that it holds its form, its shape, after this is cooked. I've used regular cheese in this before, and it'll kind of melt and the fat will run out, and it'll either leave a little air pocket there or kind of a grainy bit of cheese. It still tastes pretty good, but this is designed for making sausage, so if you can get this, it's definitely the way to go. And for 15 pounds, I'm going to use about a pound of these little cheese cubes. But that is, again, up to your own personal discretion. Oh, I don't need that. So I want to mix this in. You can feel right away these are real firm chunks. But this is the last thing I want to do because I don't want to break them up. I certainly don't want to run them through the grinder and smear them. So I want all those little cheese nuggets in my snack sticks. They're going to be beautiful and delicious. That looks great. So now I'm going to cover this. I'm going to put this out in the refrigerator overnight to let that cure to its job. It's time to set up my sausage making station, and let me show you what I got. Of course, I have the sausage mix that's been curing for a day. I also have my stuffer. And if you do this a lot, you're going to want to get a dedicated stuffer. This is just a little 5-pounder. But it makes this job so much easier than trying to use an attachment on a grinder or a stand mixer. I also bought this horn separate because I wanted a good long horn, and this is a 3/8 inch horn for making these pepper sticks. I've got the casings. These are collagen casings. They work perfectly for this because they are edible, of course, and they're one consistent width all the way through, so it makes this real easy. Scissors for snipping the sausage, and one of these little corn handles for popping any air bubbles that develop inside the sausage. So, let's put this all together and make some sausage. So, we'll load up the stuffer. Just take the sausage mix, kind of pack it a little bit, reduce the air pockets there, at least on the outside. Pop that down in there. And I want to pack it in again to try to reduce any air that gets trapped in here. Alright, now we'll load this on to the stand. And another one of the nice things about these casings is they're set up real nice to just slide onto the horn super easy in one shot, just like that. Perfect. And I'll just leave a little tidbit on the end to hold on to while I get it started. Alright, so okay, cranking. And once that part on the tip gets full up, I'll let it go, and I'll just really apply really light pressure just to hold the casing on the horn, really, and it'll just kind of flow out of there nice and easy. You'll get the hang of it. Another good thing about these casings is I don't need to tie the ends off or anything. They're going to hold that sausage mix in there just fine. Like holding your thumb over the end of a straw. There's a vacuum in there, and it's not going to let that meat fall out of there. Now I've got my sausages all stuffed up and hanging out on their dowels, spaced out just a tiny bit so they're not touching each other. And the first step in this is going to be to let these hang out at room temp for an hour to an hour and a half. And that's going to just let them come up to temp slowly and help that sausage and casing develop a really strong bond. After hanging out inside for around an hour, these guys are ready to move out to the smoker and begin the process of bringing the temperature up very, very slowly. The first step is going to be around an hour, hour and a half again at 120 degrees, and this is meant to dry the casings out really well. I'm not going to use any smoke right now, and I'm not going to have any water down in the water pan below. I want to get those casings very, very dry and then add the smoke and the water, because a good dry casing in a humid and smoky smoker is going to be the very best to get great smoke penetration. Now I could feel that those casings are all very, very dry now, so I am going to put smoker chips down in the bottom of here, and as soon as that starts to smoke, I'm going to put water in the water pan. And so I'm going to start this out at 140, give that about an hour and a half of smoke. Then I'm going to come out and raise that up to 150 and let that go for a couple hours. Now these have been going for about an hour and a half at 140, and they're starting to get a real nice red color from that smoke. Now I'm going to bump it up to 150 to continue this slow smoking and cooking phase. Now this is where you can really customize your sausages to how you like them. The length of time that you hit them with the smoke is greatly going to affect the flavor, and the longer you hold them at these low temperatures before finishing the cooking is really going to have a big impact on the texture. Now let me show you what I mean. I've got a couple of prop sausages here, and they're pretty good, but once you start making your own, you're really not going to have any need for these. So a shorter drying / smoking time is going to give you this kind of smooth and plump sausage. Whereas if you let it go longer, it's going to get firmer, it's going to wrinkle up more, and be drier overall. And they're both really good, so it's really up to you. So play around and find your sausage sweet spot. So I'm going to go fairly light on the smoke today because I really want to taste that jalapeno flavor. So I'm going to give these guys probably 4 hours of smoke, but then I'll continue to dry them for a couple hours after that before bumping up the temperature and finishing them off. I'm also going to take time now to put a little temperature probe down into the middle of one of these. I've been holding these at 150 for about 3 hours, and they're starting to just wrinkle a little bit, and I think that's just about where I want this batch to be. So now I'm going to raise the temperature to 170 to 180 to finish the cooking. I want to get these to an internal temperature of 155 degrees, and I don't want to go much higher, or all the little bits of fat in there are going to start to melt. And if it hits 180, they're all going to melt and run out of your sausage, and you're going to have a big old mess on your hands. They're at 155 degrees Fahrenheit internal temperature right now, and I want to stop the cooking as quickly as possible. Now, some people like to go with an ice bath for that, but I prefer to just hammer them with some ice cold water out of the hose. And it's going to take a little while to get the temperature in the middle to actually start dropping, so I'm going to hose them down for several minutes. And now these are going to hang out here until they're completely cooled off. But oh man, it's hard not to just cut into one right now. But it'll be better after I wait. Now let's see how we did. They look really good. That's just about the dryness I was aiming for. They got a nice color from that smoke. I can see that there's some intact cheese bits and jalapenos in there. But now let's give it a try. I'm gonna need a minute. Woo! Hot dog! That is some fine sausage. Now, I love it when a plan comes together, and this recipe came out pretty much exactly how I wanted it to. It's got a nice snap from that casing. Light smokiness, I can really taste the jalapeno still, and the cheese chunks are intact and really cheesy. It's absolutely fabulous. Let me see if I can get a good cross section of what's going on inside. There you go. You can see Right there, we got some nice cheese chunks, little fat bits, jalapeno bits. It is some really, really good sausage. I couldn't be more pleased with this recipe. Hell, now I gotta get to vacuum sealing this stuff up and get it out of sight, or I'm just not gonna be able to stop eating it. I really hope you try this one, and I guarantee you're gonna love it. And if you do, please like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.